All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a couple of real people just like you and just like me. So, more breaking Steve Perry news here. Everything that's about Steve Perry, folks, is breaking news. And I have to emphasize that as much as possible so people get the most from each Steve Perry video that I do. Before I talk about Steve Perry, for Steve Perry fans, you might want to check out Inception by the band Voyage. All right, just saying. If you like Steve Perry, if you like Journey, I would listen to this. I'd listen to it from start to finish. And then, if you're a patron or you want to become a patron, you could send me some feedback. Do you think it sounds like Journey? Do you think it sounds like Steve Perry? I'd be interested in knowing because I think it's really good. And it really just reminds me of the vintage sort of halcyon era of Journey, say from when Steve Perry joined up until, say, maybe through Trial by Fire, but I would say probably through 1987 or so. That's really when Journey was at their best with Steve Perry. So anyway, folks, Steve Perry is in the news. He's constantly in the news. The media likes to talk about Steve Perry. I like to talk about Steve Perry. Apparently, other people on this platform really like to talk about Steve Perry, even when there's almost nothing going on with Steve. So here's the story, and I do find this interesting. There is a little bit of an intriguing portion of this story, even though it sounds very dull. So Journey's classic greatest hits album is getting a fresh new sound for a newly released reissue. So there's a 2024 version of Greatest Hits, which originally appeared in 1988 and then was upgraded in 2006 when they added When You Love a Woman to the compilation because, hey, they had another big hit song, and that song went well with the rest of the collection. So you get 16 songs, and well, it's being remastered. And guess who is overseeing this project? You wouldn't believe it until I tell you. Anyway, a remastered version of Greatest Hits is now out. They just put it out there. There was no, lead up to them putting it out there. They just did it. So it's a 2 LP, 12-inch, 180-gram vinyl version, which you can purchase that with HD digital files available on all digital outlets. So I went and listened to this, and it's good. It's really good. Doesn't mess with the songs, just makes them sort of pop out a little more. The project was remastered by Adam Ayen under the supervision of original Journey frontman, drumroll please, Steve Perry, and archival producer John Jackson. All right. So that's pretty interesting. When Sony contacted John Jackson and me to oversee the remastering of the original analog tapes from flat masters to 192K HD, I was very excited to revisit them once again. That's Steve Perry talking. He continues. As it was nearing completion, I realized that sonically and musically, this was not just another compilation, but was turning into a classic sounding new LP. This was my hope for these recordings, made from a time when we were at our best. Now, the word we here kind of pops out at me because where's Jonathan Cain? Where's Neil Sean? I guess Sony just contacts Steve Perry when they want to do this stuff. So it's interesting. And Steve has been overseeing the old stuff for quite a long time. Journey Greatest Hits features 16 classic tunes from the band, including Don't Stop Believin', Separate Ways, Open Arms, Faithfully, by the way, written entirely by Jonathan Cain, along with the track When You Love a Woman, a song you probably haven't heard on the radio in like 28 years or something. So it's just That's the state of radio these days. We only play the songs that are focus tested as winners. Um, but again, the intriguing part of this, honestly, is the fact that Steve Perry is doing all of the work, supervising the remastering of original analog tapes. So again, just curious as to why Sony does not reach out to the other guys in Journey to help out with this. Even Ross Valerie, who is now putting out his own music these days, he was part of most of this, although he and Perry had a falling out, but apparently they had a falling back in at some point. And, you know, when it comes to Kane and Sean, they've been getting along well lately. So you would think that they may have an opinion on this, although this will benefit everybody because maybe these LPs will, you know, they'll sell and people will be interested in hearing these new versions of songs. And what's getting a little confusing, though, is you've got a 2024 version of this album out there. You've got a 2006 version of it out there. And you have a 1988 version that's out there as well. So it gets a little tedious. I wonder if Steve Perry or Neil Sean or Jonathan Cain would be interested in putting together an album with songs that didn't do as well on the radio, but are great album tracks. It would be interesting because you look at this song list here, and for instance, Feeling That Way and Anytime, it's not on this collection. Really bad that that's not on this collection. Whereas Only the Young is there, which is a good song, but the aforementioned song is better. Ask the Lonely, which is a good song, but again, compared to Feeling That Way and Anytime. And, you know, you can go through each album during the Perry era and pull out songs that probably would make up another good and interesting compilation. People, for whatever reason, aren't curious anymore. They don't want to hear album tracks. They've gotten so hooked on these songs over the years that they have little interest in stuff that might be a little off the beaten track, where I come at it from a different perspective. I've heard these songs so many times that I'm bored. I would like to hear some new material or put together a compilation with some outtakes and deep tracks and things that you didn't hear on the radio all the time. In the case of Feeling That Way and Anytime, that's a song that was played on rock stations and I think still is in some markets, but wasn't a top 40 hit, you know? So the days of album rock, I really miss those days. Anyway, if you're a fan of great album-oriented rock, check out Voyage, Inception. If you're a Journey fan, if you care about keeping Steve Perry's legacy going, and I say that because Steve isn't putting out new material, so you go listen to Voyage and you're thinking, wow, imagine if Steve Perry sang these songs, you know? Imagine. People would be buying the Voyage album, and it would be a platinum selling record, I bet, if Steve Perry was a part of it. Although maybe not. I mean, Traces wasn't platinum, right, when it came out. So people don't buy CDs anymore, which is kind of a shame. But they do download and stream stuff. I hear all the time. I had one guy say, well, CD players are going out of style. I'm like, I don't know. I have one in my car. I see them all the time when I go shopping at thrift stores. You could find CD players. I believe even places like Best Buy still sell aftermarket stereo systems with CD players in them. They're making them. I know people are just like, I just use Bluetooth, man. I Bluetooth the stuff from my phone. Yeah, and it's okay, but it's not as good as putting an album on and just having a physical copy of something. Like I have said before, if the cloud goes away, right? I know it's a long shot, but if the cloud ever evaporates, then what are you going to have to listen to? I have a bunch of stuff behind me. I've got albums and CDs. I'm going to have a ton of music to listen to during the apocalypse, whereas everybody else, they're going to be bummed out. They're going to go to their Spotify playlist and it's not going to work. They're not going to be able to hear the newly remastered Journey Greatest Hits album overseen by Steve Perry. Steve Perry, thank you. Thank you for doing great work, keeping these songs alive and making them even better than when they were first put out there. And to everybody else, thank you for being here. God bless everyone. Please pray for peace in the Middle East and around the world. And I will see you soon.